Hello, everybody. This is Gabriel with Divya Stones, crystal casting divination readings. And this is your week ahead reading for July 12th. And I am very thrilled to be here and give some wonderful insights on how we can navigate the energies right now, things to focus on, maybe things not to focus on. So we are going to ask Spirit for guidance here. I like to put that out there as a specific question for the collective, with the understanding that each of these messages that are going to come through are going to apply to your life individually, as well as some energy in the collective. So I'm using my custom divination board. It's covered in symbols that all have specific meanings. There's 8 sections. Each one has a different theme. And I'll be using the crystals, which I will draw randomly for our reading. And I'll be combining their energy and symbolism with the meaning of the symbol where they land on the board. There's 2 of each stone, so there will be a connection between the 2 that match each other. This gets a little bit layered. And it's a very beautiful, wonderful system that was gifted to me by Spirit in an inspired moment. I call it a lightning bolt moment. So I've been using this technique for many years, and it seems to be very accurate for people. I trust the stones and the board implicitly to bring forth what's needed to be heard in the moment. And that's just kind of how these readings work. So let's go ahead and get started for our week ahead reading. And I'll begin by drawing the 3 crystals, the 3 main crystals that we're going to work with, and a guide stone for this week. So let's see what energies want to come forward right now. Okay, the first one is a red jasper. So I'm going to grab that pair from the tray. The next stone is sodalite. And our third one is amethyst. So those are the ones that we will be randomly scattering, and then I'll draw our guide stone. So once again, just asking Spirit for all insights, guidance, messages, reminders that we need right now to get through this week, to support us, to guide us, to uplift, remind us of our truth and our focus. And let's see where those will land. And now I will draw out the guide stone. Aha, we got rhodonite. That goes right in the middle on the eye. The eye represents the ethereal realm. So now I'm just going to change the view of the board so that you can see exactly what I'm looking at. Okay, now that you can see the board much more clearly, you can see that our rhodonite is right there in the middle. That's our guide stone. So that's kind of our overarching energy for the week. So you could say the main focus, okay? So rhodonite is a wonderful heart-centered stone. It's all about a sense of well-being. It's about self-love, unconditional love. It brings about some personal growth, releasing old pain. It's also relaxing and kind of soothing to the nervous system. So this isn't about an intense process where everything gets stirred up and jacked up. It's calmer, right? So just kind of clears out the old energy and brings forth this sense of well-being, kind of a regulated emotional condition. Okay, so one of the things I like to emphasize with rhodonite is that it is self-love and it is unconditional. So this is really about challenging ourselves to be very loving towards ourselves. And that's even when we're not feeling great about ourselves. It's easier to love ourselves on our great days And when we're feeling wonderful, it's a little bit more challenging when we're having a hard time, or we are struggling with our sense of self, with who we are, with our self-esteem, all of those things. And we want to remember that at the core of who we are, despite our challenges and despite what we're going through, there is perfection. There is a divine light. There is an essence that is nothing but lovable. So we're going to hone in on that. And this week, we're going to, as we're moving through our week and asking ourselves questions about our decisions, the big question is going to be, is this the most loving thing that I can do for myself right now? And that is what I want your focus to be this week, okay? That's what, not just me, that's what Spirit is saying. So let's look at the other placements on the board and see where we are to begin. Let's see. I'm compelled to begin with the red jasper, mainly because of its positions. This is your purpose and livelihood section. This really does have to do a lot more with purpose because the positions of the two stones that landed here are close to or touching the spider in the web. And the other red jasper, it's right on the line between this section and the spiritual world, okay? So in other words, these things are very intertwined right now, our spirituality and our purpose. So Spirit is saying we want to dig deep into our spiritual essence, the truth of who we are, our relationship to the divine, and look at our purpose through that lens, okay? So the red jasper, first and foremost, it is a stone of great vitality and vibrancy. It brings this stimulating energy. It gives us endurance and strength, energy, focus, courage, all the things that we need really to get things done, to move forward, to take action. And to propel us in the right direction. So again, this is spiritual and it is being driven in our purpose in the world. So these outer four edges of the board represent the seasons and the elements. And this red jasper kind of landed right in the middle of this symbol, and that is the season of winter. There's a little snowflake right there. So we're going to focus on that for the spiritual as well as the purpose. So you could look at this as your spiritual purpose, actually. So the season of winter, it's a time of incubation. It's a time of kind of rooting down uh, and kind of exploring treasures in the dark, right? Discerning what is important, what is your life's purpose, kind of which direction you want to be going on the spiritual path. There's some stillness involved here, meditation, kind of integrating things you've already learned, and seeking a higher meaning in your life and a deeper consciousness. So this is contemplative, right? This seems contradictory because red jasper is a stone of energy, action, vitality, move forward. And winter has the energy of be still, go into the silence, go into the darkness, make your plan, get clear on your intentions. And we do have a new moon this week, so that is a good time to set some intentions. So this is not a contradiction. This is using both energies, okay? So yes, we want to go within, we want to contemplate, we want to get clear, we want to be still so that we have that clarity of intention and direction and plan, and then we want to move forward with action, with energy, with gusto, with that boost that the red jasper brings. So early on in the week, take a little time to go within and do the contemplation and the quiet. And then when you have that, bam, you're out the gate, you're running, you're ready to go. Okay. And then over in your purpose section here, it landed on the spider, and it landed smack dab on top of that spider. So that's a very clear energy here. And the spider web is all about your creativity, creating your own reality. So you're spinning a web that will catch in it what is meant for you. And it is also a symbol of discernment about what isn't meant for you. So there is a message here about just because you catch something in your web doesn't mean that you need to hold on to it forever. Maybe it is not the most loving thing you can do, right? So remember, we're going back to that self-love in our decisions. So you want to look at what you've already caught in your web. In other words, what's already present in your life. What projects are you working on? What relationships are you having? Are they in alignment with my purpose? Are they supportive of my purpose in the world? Are they helping me to create the life that I want to have? Or are they hindering me? And if they're just clutter in that web, like a spider might catch dead leaves or sticks or bark or dirt or dandelion seeds or things that are not useful to a spider, right? So they're going to go over to that item and they're going to cut the threads and let that item drop. So there's a big boost here in your energy as you are moving in that direction of that self-love that the rhodonite is talking about. And you're cutting things out of your web that do not belong, that are taking up space, that are not getting you in that direction of accomplishment in your purpose. So this is about that discernment and being willing to let go of what's holding you back so that you can take the fullest advantage of the energy of the red jasper, that big boost. Okay. So there's some releasing happening here. And it's also a reminder of our interconnectedness with all things, with the universe, with the oneness, right? And that we get to tap into that universal creative mind in order to boost our own creativity and ability to manifest the life that we want. So just as I was talking about winter and a time of contemplation and getting clear on your path, amethyst is very helpful for that as well. And the amethyst is also next to the spider. And then in your personal growth section, this is kind of about your own personal evolution and the way that it out pictures in your life. The other amethyst is on this elephant head, which represents your strengths. It represents your ability to kind of dig deep and find what you need inside of yourself to move forward in the direction you want to go. It's about leadership, confidence, and where do you need to stretch yourself a little bit? Where can you step it up in your life a little bit in order to get more towards those goals? Okay. And this is perfect to have amethyst in these positions because amethyst is a stone of vision. It helps us to develop a vision for our life and bring that visualization into manifestation. And it also increases your energy. So this is a great combo here. And so what this is saying is develop this vision, get very clear on your goals, on where you're going, on what that purpose is. Again, doing that at the beginning of the week and then moving into the action steps that are actually going to get you closer to that. So just as we can ask ourselves the question, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself? We can also ask the question, is this choice going to get me closer to my vision, or is it actually going to pull me away from my vision? We're meant to be very vision oriented this week. And focusing on that, being very focused and somewhat disciplined about where we're going and how we're spending our time and what we're doing, okay? So keep that in mind as you navigate through all the choices that you're making this week. And that brings us to the last stone that we're going to look at here, and that's the sodalite. This, again, is your spiritual world and your relationship to spirit, divine messages, and that sort of thing. This down here is your material world. So that has to do with resources, money, everything you can see and touch in the world, but also your relationship to the material world. And how do you, what is your belief system and attitudes around your money and your resources? Because that's a big, important part of our success and how we, interact with our abundance and prosperity. So I'll start with the stone itself, sodalite. It's a stone of deep peace. It just brings a sense of peace and calm, like all is well. So there's an element of self-trust here, acceptance of self. Again, these are very loving attitudes towards ourselves. It helps us to bring harmony and solidarity into relationships in the way that we communicate with others. It is a stone of expression. It's throat chakra. So again, this can be your expression in the world in terms of your purpose, which we were talking about over here. And it can also be more literal in terms of the way you're communicating in relationship with others. So watch your communication this week. Things might get a little bit sharp. I believe Mercury is still in retrograde, which can affect some of, our misunderstandings and miscommunications. So try to focus on peaceful communication this week as much as possible. So let's talk about the placements of the sodalite and how this relates to life. First of all, it's on the Luna moth inside the spiritual section. The Luna moth represents your psychic gifts, your transformation, the cycles that we go through spiritually as part of our evolution. And there is a final phase energy to the Luna moth, which means kind of a leveling up. So if you are choosing to focus on your spirituality this week, you might experience a greater awakening to your higher self. You might experience a bit of a rebirth and regeneration and a leveling up in your ability to receive the psychic messages that are trying to come through for you, your guidance, right? And because this is a stone of expression, of truth, in words, you might actually hear some pretty powerful messages this week from spirit. Okay. So keep your ears open, listen to that. Okay. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not psychic at all, or I'm not intuitive, or we are all intuitive beings. It's just a matter of tuning into that and learning to trust it. And this is a stone of trust here. So that's important. And this is going to be also about trusting that inner guidance system and the messages that might be coming through spirit around your prosperity and abundance. The open prayer hands down here in this section are kind of a symbol of your prosperity consciousness. Okay. So this is about remembering your source. Your source is not your paycheck. It's not your spouse's paycheck. It's not your family money. Those are funnels through which abundance flows, but the source energy is divine. So this is about remembering that the true source of all good that flows through and into your life is divine. Okay. And that is another reason why the other one is in the spiritual section, to remind you of this and to be at peace with this fact, okay, with this spiritual principle, that this is reminding you that things will flow from that place of consciousness, that you are deserving of the good, that the universe is unlimited. Now, this does not mean that we don't have financial realities that we have to deal with. This is not a spiritual bypassing. You don't just sit on your sofa and expect bags of cash to fall in your lap. That's not how it works. You have to take care of your part of it, your responsibilities. But doing so with that calm and that peace around the knowing and the trusting of our source really helps things to flow better, right? This is not a magical thing where you're just all of a sudden going to like have tons of money this week, right? But this is a reminder that your consciousness around the flow and the way that spirit provides for us is very important to focus on this week, okay? And that is also a very self-loving thing that we can do, is to continuously work on where is our mindset around our resources and where they come from. So that is it. That is your reading for this week. Those are the things to focus on. Doing some introspection, getting clarity on your vision, going within. And then once you have that clarity and the direction you want to go, putting that power boost of the red jasper into action, into your creating your reality, cutting out the things that do not serve, that do not belong, that are taking up space, whether that's people, circumstances, maybe it's your own habits, and then sinking into that peaceful energy of the soda light to remember your prosperity, your source energy, communicating with spirit in a way where you're receiving those messages, those psychic messages, and trusting in those. And above all, practicing this concept of unconditional self love. I hope that was very helpful, and I'm going to switch back now to regular view. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Week Ahead reading. Hope that was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. And, by the way, you don't have to sit and watch these readings. You can pop your headphones in and walk around your house and get things done while you're getting ready to, go out or whatever, and just listen to the messages. You don't necessarily have to see the visual aid in order to take in what needs to be taken in. But I do appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I just want to remind everybody that I do private readings. So if you would like to work with me, I would be very, very pleased to provide that for you. There's a link in my bio of all the different ways you can connect with me, different channels, different work I do in the world if you want to follow other things. And I really appreciate any shares, word of mouth, telling your friends about me. And yeah, I just welcome all of it. And I'm very, very grateful for all of you. So keep your focus where it needs to be this week. You're going to do amazing. It feels like a little bit of bumpy energy, but at the same time, there's potential to really move forward here. So let's all focus on that and kind of, put our heads down and go in the right direction. So that's it. I'm just going to sign off now. Thank you so much. And that's all for this week. Tune in for my quick midweek reading on Wednesday, which is 3 minutes or less, just to give you a little bit of a boost and a reminder during the middle of the week. All right. Love you guys. Thanks and have a great week. Bye for now.